EM Weekly starting right now, bringing emergency managers from around the world together to learn, share and collaborate.
Hey, welcome to the EM Weekly show, and this is your host Todd DeVoe speaking, and Dan Scott with me. Hey, Dan. And today we're going to be talking about something that I think is important for us as emergency managers, especially those that are managing programs that are part of universities and colleges, schools, and any kind of facility type of thing. So this week we're talking to Kieran Carroll from ZeroEyes and talking about AI, artificial intelligence, that is, weapons identification systems, and using technology to stop active shooter situations. And we've seen this happening time and time again. We just had yesterday, there was an active shooter or some sort of shooting incident going on at a mall near my hometown in Albany, New York. And it can hit anywhere, right? And so I think it's really important. So Kieran Carroll is the VP of Commercial and Government Affairs at ZeroEyes, and he has a venture-backed artificial intelligence company that develops weapons detection, analytics, and integrates them into existing surveillance systems. So the cool part about this, though, is like not only is he here to talk about this, right? Because that's important, but Mr. Carroll, he was an officer in the United States Navy. He's an Academy grad guy. So his bona fides are really strong right there. So Kieran, welcome to EM Weekly.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us this morning.
So, man, AI stuff is really exciting. We were talking about how we can use AI specifically with data analysis and predictive analysis type stuff. But how do we use it? What is ZeroEyes, and how are you guys using AI to help save lives?
Yeah, so it's a pretty simple concept on the surface. So ZeroEyes as a company has been around for the last 2 years. We're a team of former military veterans, for the most part, based out of Philadelphia. And the CEO, Mike Lahith, and the COO, Rob Huberty, were both working corporately. They're both former Navy SEALs, MBAs when did the corporate thing. But at some point, they started seeing these headlines of kids getting killed in a mass shooting, or workers getting gunned down in a workplace violence event. And they said there has to be something better out there that's more proactive and actionable than existing active shooter, mass shooter technologies are on the market. And they both started looking at various solutions. And what they landed on was really fascinating. They said, we can take the existing commercial security cameras or surveillance cameras that are already in schools, they're already in malls, they're in big box retail. I mean, they're everywhere. Mm-hmm. And they said, let's do some sort of artificial analytic to make them into a sort of a proactive force multiplier, so that when someone with a visible gun comes within field of view of one of these cameras, that we'll be able to trigger a series of alerts within seconds, and be able to geolocate that threat, get first responders and local law enforcement there much faster than sort of the traditional thing that we've seen play out so many times in the last 20 years of frantic 911 phone calls, of sort of mass pandemonium in these events. And the cool thing is that we've done that over the last 2 years. We spent about a year building out the product. We recruited an incredible technology team. We're doing probably some of the most cutting edge computer vision analytics that are out there. But again, it's a pretty simple idea from a high level. So all the technology stuff is a little bit more complex. And I think the great thing about what we're trying to do is that it's a universal use case. So you see a lot of stuff in the media about like facial recognition or behavioral sort of predictive analysis type stuff that a lot of these companies are trying to do. And we looked at all that and we said, hey, I think everyone can kind of get behind seeing, or alerting when a gun is present. And so far we've just run with that idea, and we're doing pretty well as a company so far.
So your system, it integrates with the current system that they may have. They don't have to upgrade their systems at all?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the other thing that, our clients like. There's no crazy hardware upgrade. You don't have to rip out your cameras, provided that you already have a pretty decent camera system in place. So we're just a software that's going to integrate to your existing stuff.
Do you offer cameras and stuff to go along with the existing software if they don't have that? as an option?
So we don't. We don't sell cameras. We're happy to point people in the direction of some of our integrator partners, or even some of the OEMs like Axis, for example. We have a great relationship with Axis.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. And one question I had when I heard about the company, which I think is a great software, is it only guns that it identifies that they have a weapon as a firearm, or does it address like someone walking down down the hall with a knife, or another type of weapon that could be used, a sword? Yeah, because I mean they're getting creative. They're using knives now and axes. I mean, they're attacking people. So my question is it just firearms, or can you implement it to where it would potentially identify a knife in a hand?
Yeah, it's a great question. So currently we are just doing firearms. And the reason behind that is because if you look at sort of the science of AI, what we have sort of figured out as a company in the last year or two is that you can only really do one thing really, really well with a super high performance at a time. And just because obviously guns are sort of, the number one cause of mass carnage, we started out with just firearms. The other thing that's going to come into play with a knife, and not to get too technical, but a knife under most of your traditional security cameras is really hard to find. There's a lot of variables, depending on the quality of the camera, the resolution, environmental variables like lighting, that kind of thing. So what we sort of held off on the knife thing. And the other thing too that's going to come into play is that typically the amount of computing power that's going to have to go into figuring out if something's a knife versus a larger object is going to be cost prohibitive for most clients at this point. But that being said, to your point about swords or machetes or spiked baseball bats, stuff like that is we're interested in doing that as a company down the road. We just want to perfect the gun and firearm use case first.
So in general, with AI, and I want to get a little bit more into the generalization here. So how does it work? Like, how does it learn? And I mean, like, are there false positives that occur? I mean, if I walk in there with, say, I don't know, like a baseball bat, for instance, could it look like a firearm to the AI? How does it learn? How does that work? And how does that communicate with campus safety departments?
Sure. Yeah. So I think you'll find that within the industry, there's really two methodologies. There's a lot of AI companies out there that sort of espouse the methodology that essentially, in order to build a model, they're going to go to the internet and they're going to download millions of images of an object. Let's call it a gun. And then they're going to try to build a data set that way and build that into an algorithm, and it's going to lead to some sort of performance. And then there's a methodology that we learned really early on, I think was more effective, and it led to better performance. And that was, instead of going to the internet and downloading 3 million images of guns, we decided, hey, we are going to custom build our data set. So we have hundreds of thousands of labeled images at this point of guys like myself running around with guns under every type of commercial security camera on the market, numerous different types of environments, places like office parks, schools, street level cameras, water parks, and we went and built a data set that way. And that's I think what sort of leads to our what we believe was industry leading performance. So to answer your question about how the data set and artificial intelligence algorithm gets built, that's the way that we do it. And we've noticed, a direct correlation in performance. The second part of that is, so let's say, what happens next, right? Is the analytics going to think something's a gun? So to answer your other question, do we get false positives? Yeah, of course, all the time. I would push back heavily on any AI or computer vision company that says they do not get false positives. I've never seen it happen. But going back to the way that model is built is going to lead to a significant drop in false positives. And that's what we've done. We've made it manageable to the point where a human operator that's on the ZeroEyes team and is monitoring every single place we're deployed here in the United States, we monitor 24/7, 365. So when a false positive does come into our platform, we're able to look at that within a second or two and declare it a false positive. I think that's. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was going to ask a question kind of on that. Now, does your process do machine learning as well? Which does it learn what that's not a that's a baseball bat, not a gun, and it puts it in its database?
Yep. So there's a component to that as well. So every false positive image that we get, we retain that, and this is the only data that we collect throughout the entire process. We just collect the false positive images, we retain those, and then we use them to rebuild the model to deliver stronger performance for our clients. And we also do stuff like we'll build really common data sets of stuff that we see as false positives. So, for example, cell phones, or in a school environment, baseball bats, lacrosse sticks, tennis rackets,
Right.
guitar cases, stuff like that. So the entire goal is to make the algorithm as smart as possible.
So my question would be too on that, which is I would rather have a false positive than a false negative. I mean,
Absolutely,
especially in that situation. But how does it? How does the software potentially look for concealed? Like the guitar case? What if I have weapons inside the guitar case? Does it only come when I pull them out that I get the alert, or does it look for as walking down the hall with the jacket and I got a bulge? Does it look like that type of stuff, or has it got to be in the open?
Yeah, so it has to be in the open. It has to be visible. A big part of our algorithm is weapons in hand. It's a really, really hard challenge to do the concealed thing for a number of different reasons. For one thing, your typical commercial security camera just doesn't have the capability to do it. For another thing, you're going to need an absolutely enormous data set, and that's also sort of getting into like the behavioral and the predictive analysis.
Sure.
To the point where again, it's going to be cost prohibitive for your typical end user or client. So we're just looking at visible guns, and then really the other aspect of that is I think right now in the U.S., man, I think there's like 31 or 32 states where open carry is legal to some degree, and so we're really just looking for that intent with a gun in hand. I think that's a big part of what we're trying to go for.
Can AI do behavioral analysis and predictive behavior type stuff?
I think one day, yeah. I don't think we're there yet. Sort of as an industry, there's tons of vendors and companies out there that will tell you they can do it. I personally have never seen anything compelling. I can say that we're working with the Department of Defense, for example. The DoD looks at a ton of these vendors every month. I think that they would probably be the first to tell you that they are still looking for that sort of golden solution. They haven't found it yet. But that being said, I'm not at all in any way disparaging the rest of the AI community.
Sure.
We have to go. We as a community have to go through these initial steps where we're trying to do stuff and build these data sets, because eventually it's all going to come together. I think that's sort of the next generation of AI, and who knows when that's going to happen, maybe 3-4 years down the road. But all of it's, based on quantum computing and stuff like that, that's going to really drive that.
Right. I know a lot of times when we're moving into the idea of using technology. So for instance, Titan HST, one of our sponsors, they have an app-based communications device, and a lot of questions that we get are, what's the privacy like? And I know that Titan is very privacy-centric. What are some of the privacy concerns that people have with a system like this, with the AI, taking a look at everybody with the cameras and things like this? What is the privacy concerns of the clients, and how do you guys address this?
Yeah, that's another great question. So we are only looking for guns. We look at a commercial security feed 10 times per second. So we process that down from 30 frames per second to 10 frames per second. That's going to give us 10 opportunities per second to find a gun in that keyframe. So we're only looking for objects. We don't collect any data. All the data that we work with is all owned by the client, with the exception of those false positive images. And the other thing is, we're not doing any sort of facial recognition or behavioral predictive analysis type stuff. I think that there's two schools of thought. There's one school of thought that says any sort of surveillance is bad, and obviously the public has a right to know. And then there's I think a slightly better argument, a better school of thought that says, if we do this for the right use case, it's going to lead to better public safety. And I think we as a ZeroEyes solution, a weapons detection solution, falls more squarely into that second train of thought. So, for example, when we're talking to cities, or municipalities about going into their their real-time crime center surveillance or their citywide surveillance, the conversation isn't about trying to track people or do facial. It's trying to find a gun in the open, a weapon in hand of someone within field of view of one of their cameras, so that we can dispatch resources appropriately. I don't think we've ever gotten significant pushback from a privacy concern yet.
Cool. Well, let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about some of the use case and how you integrate with the PSAP's 911 centers.
Sure.
I'm so happy to be introducing our newest sponsor, VanQuest Tough Build Gear. And VanQuest was founded with a simple mission: build the toughest bags and packs for your everyday carry and help you stay organized and prepared. VanQuest has been making the ultra-durable bags and packs since 2011 right here in Orange County, California. And their bags and packs have been trusted by clients such as the FBI and the U.S. Secret Service and the U.S. Special Operations Command. VanQuest bags and packs offer the best organization and user-friendly experience, such as high visibility interior for users to find the essential gear quick. I'm telling you, that's such a great option because I'm always looking for stuff in my bags, and that orange background makes it so easy to find. VanQuest is offering fast shipping and a lifetime warranty. And if you act now, you can get 5% off by using the discount code EMWeekly, all capitals. VanQuest has the expertise to help you stay organized and prepared. And don't forget, vanquest.com.
Seconds count during an emergency. That's why at Titan HST, we're always inventing new technology to help people stay safe and help people who can provide help get connected with people who need help. At Titan HST, we've deployed mesh networking, allowing emergency communication even when networks are down, augmented reality, and real-time translation. We believe in the power of people, each other, stay safe, and thrive.
And welcome back from that quick break. And hey, I want to give one update though. With the VanQuest bags, Daniel, do you know that we're now at 10% off, not 5% off? So if you go over there, put the Ian Weekly discount code in, you get 10% off, not 5%. And so if you guys looking for some good quality bags, check out VanQuest. So before we went on the break, we're talking about some case studies and stuff like this. I know that you guys have done some of them and working with PSAPs and how that works. And talk about that. How does it work? How does the system integrate with the PD?
Yep. So the first thing, right, is once our analytic thinks that something is a gun, it's going to go to that 24/7, 365 human in the loop operating center that ZeroEyes has. We also let some of our clients that are maybe a little bit more mature with like a more mature GSOC do their monitoring, but we'll come on site and we'll train them up to our standard. That human operator, once an alert comes into the platform, has really two options. One, they can declare it a false positive, or the second option, they can hit dispatch. If they hit dispatch, if it's a real gun or a real threat, it's going to push that alert so that critical real-time information, it's going to be a keyframe image of the shooter with the gun, a timestamp, and a geolocation. It's going to push that simultaneously to two different pathways. The first pathway is going to be directly to that local PSAP. The way that we do that is through a partnership with a company called RapidSOS. RapidSOS owns essentially the data pathways into something like 90% plus of the local PSAPs around the country. This is going to enable us to skip that traditional sort of 911 process where we maybe we sit and wait in a queue or something like that. It's going to get that critical real-time information directly to a 911 operator. The next place that this sort of goes is really anywhere a client wants it to. So we're what's considered an open API, meaning that we can integrate to a ton of different functions. For example, we integrate to our clients' access control system so they can lock the building down. We integrate to their existing mass notification systems and crisis communication applications. We also have our own ZeroEyes desktop dashboard that we give every single client. It's just it's a website, but it's whitelisted for their IP, so only they can access it. Typically within a school environment, maybe the SRO or the superintendent or the principal is going to have this up in their office. In sort of a retail environment or maybe like a shopping mall, the on-site security staff will have that up. We also have a ZeroEyes mobile app that we give out standard as part of our package to as many people who want it or think they need it. And then finally, we also have the ability to send this critical information over text message or email. So you think about sort of maybe a facility environment. We'll add every worker's cell phone if they want it. And we're able to broadcast it that way. So there's a lot of functionality built into the platform.
Sorry about that. That's awesome. So basically, thinking about the closed environment, when I say closed environment, like a college or university type thing, are you integrating with their campus safety departments and stuff like that as well, or is it only going to local 911 PD, systems?
Yeah, so I think if a college doesn't have sort of their own dispatch function, or they don't have like a co-located PSAP or something, I think the solution there is we're gonna maximize use of that desktop dashboard that we give them, as well as a mobile app. So their security officers, or if they have a police force, we'll have that on their phones. As well as the text message alerting and stuff like that.
So if someone wants to take a look at your system and how it plays out and see it in real time, see what it does, how it does it, and the options that there are, where do they go? How do they do that?
So they'd contact us and we'd arrange a pilot, and that's typically how we're how we're getting our stuff out into the market is through a pilot. We're still obviously a very, very early industry. I think people have to see it to believe it, and what's even better is that they see it on their own screens and their own cameras. So that's sort of the way that we're going to market, at least for the next probably foreseeable future, 12, 18 months. I think that the easiest way to do that is to put it through its paces. We have almost every single big client we've gone into has done some sort of evaluation where they're out there walking around with guns, or we're showing up on site and they're telling us, hey, go over here, go over there. We love the feedback. It's phenomenal stuff for our tech and tech ops team. I think at this point we've been benchmarked by some pretty big names, to include the Department of Defense, which I think is probably the biggest feather in our cap so far.
So in order to
Absolutely
they would come to you to get a demonstration. They would say, come, you would go to them. So they call you, say, we want a demonstration, and you'll go to them and give them a full demonstration on the product.
Yep. So typically they'll hit us up and we'll do like a virtual demo in the age of COVID from our office in Philadelphia. And then, if they express further interest, we'll show up on site. So a great use case example right now, I'm in a hotel room in Orlando because tomorrow I'll be on site with a public school system that we're doing a proof of concept and pilot for, to sort of get a sense of what their camera system looks like and what their VMS looks like, and how things are sort of oriented. And as part of that, we're going to be doing a full evaluation of the system with numerous different types of firearms. We're going to give them for 30 days to take for a test run.
I've seen some communities that are using, I forget the way it's, somebody please correct me out there or tell me what it is. It's where you can actually allow the city to come into like your Ring phone or to your personal security cameras, right? Cities are working with partnerships with individual homeowners. Are you guys integrating those cameras as well when a city does that? Like, can my Ring camera show you somebody with a firearm and then you know what's happening, or how does that work?
So we have yet to do anything with Ring, but I'm aware of sort of like city or municipal partnerships that are public-private partnerships. I think the city of DC is a great example. The Metropolitan Police Department in DC, through I can't remember what the overarching federal program is, but they're able to work with private buildings, commercial property groups that have street level cameras, and they're able to ingest those feeds into their sort of real-time crime center. So I think what makes this a little bit trickier for vendors like us who are looking to access those feeds is how contractually how does that work? Who pays? That kind of thing. What makes it a lot easier is that if all the feeds are aggregated into one place, because we just have to either pull them into our cloud instance or do some sort of on-prem solution for them there. But we've seen a ton of different ways that networks are set up, and yeah, so it's it's a challenge for sure. Yeah.
Does your one quick question just popped in my head? Does your so with your system, is it all visual? I mean, can you, if you heard gunshots but you couldn't see a weapon, does it identify that in any way?
Yeah, so we're all visual. We are just a software that's going to integrate to the existing cameras. We've seen cameras, I guess more frequently that are edge cameras that have the ability to do acoustics. There's obviously a lot of acoustic gunshot vendors on the market at this point. I consider us, two sides of the same coin. I don't look at them in any way as competitors, particularly. I think we're angling to be a little bit more proactive based on that computer vision aspect and seeing a visible gun. But if God forbid our software missed that, or one of our competitors' software missed that, having that acoustic as a backup, I think is very, very valuable. And I think what we're going to see more and more as sort of the new age of the security business or security industry sort of matures is you're going to see this layered concept where it's no one's relying on just one or the other. It's going to be both. And I think the rest of the ZeroEyes team would probably agree with my assessment that that's coming in the next like 2-3 years, particularly with the fortunes and people that are a little bit more forward leaning on the security stuff. Even from like a liability and reputational damage perspective, these guys are starting to look at, they want to be all encompassing and have all the bases covered. And then I think eventually that's going to permeate down to, your SLED market, your federal market. So yeah, we're really excited and this is, something that I think is unique to this particular sort of niche of the industries. We work with all these vendors. We work with the acoustic guys all the time. I think we have a great relationship with most of the big ones, and it's because everything's going to get pushed onto the edge eventually. All of our stuff is going to have to talk to each other and work as sort of a turnkey solution.
So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how would they find you?
So we've got obviously a web presence, www.zeroeyes.com. You could also, if you want to email me directly, it's Kieran Carroll at ZeroEyes.com. We're on, I think, every form of social media at this point, to include Instagram. So yeah, we're just Google us, ZeroEyes. It'll all come up. I think we've got also a great YouTube. I would be remiss if I didn't plug our YouTube channel. YouTube has a ton of live demos, a ton of stuff that we've done on client sites. I think we're very open and transparent about how we do this. I unfortunately, I think in this industry, there's probably some folks that I don't want to say fake, but maybe overextend their capabilities a little bit, or try to maybe a little bit of snake oil in there. Sure. That's not us. We're transparent. We want to show you live demos. I think we do a great job. We do a standing live demo webinar every Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern. We've had everyone from direct end users show up to that. We've had our partners typically bring their clients on, investors, and more we're just getting like random people off the street that just I think are interested. And I think once you actually see this work, it's really compelling. Particularly, our market now is former law enforcement and military, and like I don't know if you guys ever tried to sell it to that particular market, but they are the most skeptical guys in the world, and I can appreciate that coming from the military, because every time a vendor came to the military trying to give us the next cool whiz bang toy, half the time that wouldn't work, or just wouldn't work as advertised. So I'm the same way, and everyone on the ZeroEyes team is. We are skeptical people. We fit well with our target market of law enforcement and military and security professionals, because we've been there.
Right. Well, the rule is give it to a Marine, see if you can break it. If you can't break it, then that's okay to go, right?
Yeah. We're about to find out, I think, pretty shortly when we're working with the Marines. So, and that's the other thing too, is like I'm not a tech guy by any means. We try to make our platform as simple and as intuitive as possible. With like your typical like security guy in mind, of which I am one. So I don't mean that in any way negatively.
Right.
We've seen some of these solutions that are just like so over engineered, and just to the point of like, man, in a real life situation, there's no functionality here. So we're trying to avoid that and deliver something that's compelling and that works.
Absolutely. Hey, everybody, if you're driving or your pencil's broken or whatever the situation is for you, you can't take notes. All of those links that Kieran just said, they're going to be down in the show notes. So go ahead and go down there and click on them and visit them. I was able to sit through, I was invited to sit through one of their demonstrations. That's how I got to meet Kieran and whatnot. And I think it's a really interesting platform. This is why I wanted to bring it to you, all the emergency managers out there. I was really excited to have him on the show. Thank you so much for your time today, and everybody, please, grab on your personal favorite podcast listener, your platform, and subscribe down there. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and go back and check out ZeroEyes' YouTube channel. They do have some really cool videos out there as well. So everybody, see you next week.
Thank you.
Yeah.